Welcome back to SOS. I'm Staff Sergeant Badass. Freddie Mercury, Queen. You gotta love that mustache, right? Alright. What am I going to talk about today? So, this is just me talking. I don't know if you're going to like this or not, if you're going to learn anything, but it might make you think. I hope it does. I hope it gives you something else to think about besides some of the stuff I've made you think about. But anyways, something else to think about. Now, this isn't me being judgmental or anything before I even get started talking about this, because this is just something on my mind. This is my therapy thing. This is what I do. I come back here, I make a video a day, and I do something to get my mind off stuff. And this is one of the things that are on my mind. I just kind of was wondering about and thinking about. But don't get offended. Try not to. We can still be friends if you do. Just comment below your opinion of my opinion, okay? Let's make this a conversation. All right, so which way do I want to go with this? Let's go way back. Let's go way, way back. I knew a guy. Old guy. He'd drive around his old Ford truck. It barely ran, and this thing looked like it had been to hell and back. And he lived in a trailer, and off the land from his trailer was an old barn, and in that old barn he kept stuff, lots of weird things you don't normally find everywhere else. And some stuff that people would call junk. You know, you'd say, man, look at all that junk. But to him, it wasn't junk because he could build things out of it. And I told you about the truck for a reason. I'm getting to that. So he had all this junk. And I'm going to get into all that junk in just a minute. And kind of some of the ideas this man would come up with that I thought was just, his name was Fred. And his mind intrigued me. I really did learn a lot when he was building things, and he would make some of the most exotic things I have ever seen in my life. They should definitely make a TV show about Fred, but I don't think Fred's around anymore. So he would drive around this old Ford truck through the cities, and these upper than middle class people would leave things outside. And things that still had value. And I mean, there's things that even if I was driving by, I would stop my vehicle and open my back hatch and throw stuff in it. And that's me, because that stuff still had value. When it comes to fabric materials like couches and stuff, I don't mess with that stuff. I'm not going to try and stop and pick something like that up. But if it's an old coffee table or something, I might stop and pick that up. Most people wouldn't think I would talk about stuff like this today, right? What is he talking about? Wait a minute, I do that. Somebody out there is going to be like, I do that. So he'd drive by and he'd pick up old stuff, even old washing machines and just random stuff. You know, people live on the side of the road. He takes it back to that barn. And that barn's a rather good size. It's old, you know, really old barn. It's ate up by bugs and everything, but it works. It works for what it does. But anyway, he brings stuff in, right? And he parks it in there, and then he starts taking things apart. And he built a 6-wheeled. It used to be a 4-wheeler, and used to be a 4-wheeler. But he built a 6-wheeled type thing out of it, and he does a lot of trade. And he traded that for a Volkswagen dune buggy that somebody had. And it was a rust bucket too, but he still had a dune buggy. But he made a 6-wheeled, it was a 4-wheeler, but he made it where it would track switch. He made a track switch so that when he would steer one direction, it shut one side off and only ran one side, and then he would hit the gas and spin it around like a tank. But he did that with a 4-wheeler and turned it into a track vehicle. Weird. But it was 6 wheels, 6 tires. Like an Amtrak, for those of you that know what that is. Anyway, so there was that. And then he took but he had that dune buggy, right? And then he traded that dune buggy for a Corvair or something like that. I can't remember what it was. Another Volkswagen model, I think. No, it's not the Chevrolet. Not the Death Trap Chevrolet, but some other vehicle. But I'm getting off track here. I'm being kind of random. So he had a go-kart frame. He had this go-kart frame. It had the two wheels in the front and it steered. You've seen go-karts that were like $400, whatever. Well, this person had left the go-kart. I guess it had flat tires or whatever and didn't want it anymore and left it by the side of the road and probably needed engine work. But he knows what he's doing. So he takes it, tinkers with it, gets the motor running again, and instead of doing two wheels in the back, he takes the rear axle off, the rear end off of a 10-speed, breaks that off, snaps it up, busts out his stick welder, starts welding all this stuff up, and then he lines everything up and gets it all nice and straight. And next thing you know, he had I think it was a 5-speed, 3-wheeled go-kart, and that thing would book it. And once it got going and he started going through the gears, it was insane. But this man was crazy, but he was not crazy. He just knew what he was doing. He was having fun. He was having fun out of stuff he made. Now, how do other people have fun? This is something I was thinking about while I was at the gym the other day, and I was listening to these, I don't know, they're fancy pants people, they drive a new BMW, you got your new Mercedes guys, there's a whole parking lot full of them, so I don't know who I'm dealing with. A lot of them golf and whatnot. Some of you golf, but you're probably not in the same category as people like I'm talking about right now. But don't get offended. If I do offend you, take it for what I take it with a grain of salt. Let's just move on and comment below if you got offended. Anyway, we're all adults, right? But I speak my mind. You know what I mean? I don't care. I say that in public. I will do that. Okay, so these guys were talking about, their new glitter boat. It's like a bass something monster boat, whatever. It was like 80,000 something, probably more than that. You're talking about like $150,000 boats and 200,000 more. I mean, some are like 500,000. 700,000, they just go up and up and up. Some cost way more than RVs cost, you know what I'm saying? There's RVs out there. I mean, the RV people, I can't knock that, you know what I mean? I can't knock somebody that goes out and gets an RV. I can't. That's a great prep. There's nothing wrong with that. That's an RV. I can't see with some boats, I can't see how that's an awesome prep. It would be if you have managed your money right, you know what I mean? If you're that guy and you're doing it for prepping purposes, I would see it not being a total waste. But I'm not going to sit here and judge that. I'm just kind of talking about like what more people worry about. They just buy it. They just go and buy it. We live in an area where we have two types of people. Extremely poor, or you have your upper middle. You know what I mean? Your upper middle class. We don't really have a middle class here, and we are definitely not, we're not middle class, and we're not all the way extremely poor, but we're just that tick right above poor man street, you know what I mean? That's where me and Sippy are. Most people don't know that, and they watch the show, they have no idea, they would assume whatever, but it's like our vehicles are paid for, we paid for our vehicles. We've had them for years, years and years and years, but it's like people would get mad at me about my truck. That was a $4,000 truck, and then I took the parts that were on that thing when I got it. Someone thought they were cool to put 20-inch rims on it. Well, I sold all that crap that was on it and turned around and flipped it and made it what it is. See, that's smart. And yeah, I'll say it. I'll pat myself on the back for that. I'm allowed to do that. But it's smart, and that's what other people should be doing. It's what I wished other people were doing, but some people don't. They focus on just click, and there it is. It's right there. I just can't do it. I just can't. But our communities, right? I'm not trying to be judgmental. This is something to think about. Just thinking, right? Okay, so there's these communities of way upper. They're way beyond middle class. You're talking like 8-bedroom houses and stuff. Gigantic monster communities, and the houses are like that close together, and we got like 6 BMWs parked out front and everything else, all these different houses around there. I didn't even know, but someone was telling me, yeah, that's the rich community. That's what everybody calls it. That's the rich community. And then over here you've got the other rich community. Then you've got like your retirement villa and stuff like that. They're living in moderate houses, just normal, like 3-bedroom, and you got your couple of baths, and then you've got your kitchen. Got it. That's perfect. Now, why would someone like that? They've got it figured out, right? This is a retirement villa. They've got it figured out. That's all they need. If you're retired, you're just chilling. Why do you need freaking? You wouldn't. But then some people, they have like one kid and 6 more bedrooms. I just don't get it. And then I drive past one person's. This is the balance. Don't get offended. I drive past one person's house, and I know these people. I know who they are. I've talked to them. We've conversated. They've got the same amount of kids as us, and they're hilarious. They're fun people to talk to, but the way they do stuff is just like the person I was telling you about in the beginning, Fred. The person I was telling you about in the beginning. He would gather up wasteful people's stuff and take it back to his barn and make cool stuff out of it and have fun. And he was basically having the same kind of fun that somebody that's out driving that vehicle that they're still making payments on, or whatever, that $180,000 vehicle that they're out having fun on, when the actual real fun's going on at Fred's house when you're trying to see what's going to happen with that 6-wheel 4-wheeler, right? You see what I'm saying? But that's just me. That's just my way of thinking. That would be more fun to do than to go ride around in a boat that's not paid for. I'm just saying. It's just one of the things I think about. But these people I was telling you about just now, that, man, their house, we've even talked about it, because they had a tree fall on their shed, and their house, it's just in shambles. It's beyond the 40s. It's beyond that. It's like 30s. We live in a house from the 40s. That's the house we live in. We live in a house from the 1940s. And they live in a house beyond that. It's way beyond that. And it's been needing repairs since, I think, the 40s. But it's just something we've talked about, and it's something that we think about. We think about. So it's something that you should think about, because you've got people that are so wasteful, and everything's just a click away, and everything's right up the road, and all you got to do is drive to the store. You got people over here going to Target, and you got the other people that are going to Walmart. It's just one of those things to think about. Or people that just don't go to the store at all. I've mentioned those that live by the river. They don't go to the store at all. Their grocery store is in their backyard. That's where they go. But it's just those different types of people, and where do they stand? Well, and then you start talking about these people in collapse times, like in a type of collapse. Well, what would that be like? Well, you've got the people over here that have the the old truck that's driving around picking up people's waste. Basically, you've got these people with more money than they know what to do with it. They just don't think. They're wasteful. They could have took half the stuff they set by the road to the freaking Goodwill, or maybe a thrift store or something, so somebody else could get their hands on it. But instead, they just sit it by the road so the trash truck can come pick it up. It's just wasteful. I used to see that when I was in the military too, in like base housing and stuff. You got like your people that made more money than the average Joe, still living in the base housing area, but you'll see a freaking brand new couch. They just threw it on the side of the road. Like, what? What are you doing? Oh, we got a new one. You're not going to put it on Craigslist or something? Somebody probably could use that. You could probably run it over to Goodwill. They could probably set it in their showroom and sell it. Dirt cheap. Somebody else. Call a buddy instead of just letting it go to the dump. I just don't get it. I don't get people. Wasteful. Very wasteful. But that is the stuff that I think about all the time. The wasteful stuff. But it's just like this guy we've got. I don't mean to badmouth people. I'm not trying to be judgmental. I'm just good examples of just, you'll see people spending all this money on something that they don't even need to spend the money on, and it worked just fine the way it was. They could have just left it alone. And you got people out there, they don't know what it's like. They don't know what it's like to lose a house. I talked about this in my hippie video. I did my hippie. That was another one of my videos where I was just talking. But my hippie video where I said, these famous people have never lost a house before. They haven't experienced having a car repossessed, or they haven't lost anything. They haven't really lost anything, and they have no idea what it's like to lose something. And more money gets you into more trouble. What was that dude's name? Kanye West or something like that? He got himself in some major trouble. What, millions and billions in debt? I just read the headlines. I don't keep up with the news. But that's just something to think about, right? Something to think about. This guy up the road, he had a perfectly good Suzuki, I can't remember what that thing is. It's a full drive truck type thing. Those little mini, it's like a four wheeler, but it's not. It's like you drive around in it like a car. I don't know what they're called because I can't afford them. I can't afford one of those things. But, so he'd drive around in it in the wintertime. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. It was just bone stock, drove it around, and I got around just great. And then, I came past, he's got too much money. He's got, the dude has 2 Corvettes, I don't know how many motorcycles. And then, speaking of motorcycles, I talked to a dude the other day that just traded his year-old Harley Davidson in for another Harley Davidson, a new one. And he just bought a boat and all kinds of stuff. I just don't get it, man. That's not living to me. I just don't see living that way is important to me. Having stuff like invest in stuff so that I have stuff when it happens. Those things just don't seem important to me. But that's just my way of thinking, man. You don't get offended by it. So I drove past the old boy's house, and we've talked before. He's a pretty cool dude. But I pulled in his driveway and we shot the breeze. Sometimes he's followed me to the grocery store before and we shoot the breeze out there. But he's got more money than he knows what to do with. I don't know what he does exactly other than something to do with building things. But this vehicle was just fine the way it was, and I drove by and it was getting off this truck, pulling it off of it, had these chrome rims and mud tires, and the thing was booger green, and man, it just looked heinous. It looked hideous. Whew. But anyways, he likes it, and he thinks it's the coolest thing ever. I liked it the way it was. I was like, man, can you just take all that crap off of it? How much was it to begin with? What, like $18,000, and then probably another however much, $10,000 he probably spent on that thing to make it look like that. Ugh, I don't know. That thing's ugly. It's butt ugly now. But he bought a truck like mine, a Suburban, and he stopped me. He's like, hey man, check it out. Yeah man, it's cool. It's bone stock, nothing done to it, anything like that. And I was like, he's like, yeah man, I'm gonna take it into the body shop and get some work done to it. And I was like, cool. And man, it was like 2-3 weeks later, I drove by. It had a new lift on it, new suspension, new everything, new shocks, new struts, all that, blah blah blah. Well, it had the shocks, and it had the steering shock absorber, a steering buffer, or whatever you call those things. And new wheels, new tires, freaking new gears, new everything, new paint job, everything had been redone, been replaced. He had it like 3 weeks, and it's already completely finished, done. And he rhino lined it. It was heinous. I'm honest. You ask, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to say, look, it's heinous. And what do you think? I think it's heinous. I don't know. Man, I can't get past the rhino lining of a truck. I just don't understand why you would do that. I could see a shopping cart hitting it, but come on, dude, man. I like the originalness of an old truck. Me, I can't afford to do all that, so I still have rust on mine. One of my windows doesn't even work. That kind of thing. I got my windshield wipers. My arm on the inside makes that clickety clack sound when it runs. It's great. I love it when it's raining out. It's like You know, that's just me. Gives a character, right? You gotta have old stuff. But he's done with his. Everything's done. First question: how do you wash it? Does the sponge like disintegrate? Like, does it just like fall to pieces? Oh man, I can't see it. But anyways, people got too much money to know what to do with. And you got people like Fred driving around in his old pickup truck, just clickety clacking and gathering up people's wasteful stuff. That dude would survive. You know, would survive. And people like that will survive. They will do just fine. Because people can make use out of stuff people waste. And people are just, everything's too convenient for them now. Everything's right there. And when it's gone, what are they going to do? They're going to panic. And it's going to be the drowning effect. And they're going to try and drown every one of you. They are. They will. And they'll get pretty violent about it. They're going to be the first ones that have no integrity and they take. They're going to have no honor. They're going to take from everyone else. They'll take from the poor. You better believe it. They'll take from the poor. Especially when you start killing that deer. They're going to be the first ones there trying to kill you for it. All this stuff has a reason. And this is just the things I think about. You can disagree with me or I don't care. But I love you guys. I want you to know that before you make that nasty comment. Alright. You're watching SOS. I'm Stats Badass. Please have a beautiful, fabulous, fantastic day. And take it easy.